Hollywood. They're going to show this at the next session, 2010, right? 12. We got to wait 4 years to see this? They won't even recognize me in 4 years.
Be on the History Channel.
Let me lay this disclaimer real quick. I have no intention of talking for an hour and 20 minutes. As a matter of fact, I am not coming to prepare to give a lecture on prayer because I don't think that anybody should do that. I don't think that's going to help you. If you needed that stuff, you can go on the internet and you can go on to Google and put a prayer, and you can get all the information you want, some good, some bad. You can go to a library and get all the books in the world on prayer and read all of the great folk. What I have decided to do when I was asked to do this, I went back to something that Henry Nouwen, who wrote The Wounded Healer, said, which was very interesting. He was on a retreat, and his intent was to be away from things, relax a little bit, and the rector, the spiritual guide there said, Henry, we got a high school group here, and we want you to do a retreat for them, 3 retreats. And Henry said, I do not have time to prepare a retreat for no high school students. And the rector said, Henry, you've been doing this stuff for 40 years, living it and writing it. If you got to prepare, then you're the wrong person to do it. So I'm going to talk to you, and you talk with me and work my way through having tried to pray for 50 years. I think that that'll be more helpful to me than trying to read Richard Foster or read the Desert Fathers or any of those folks, though I will speak about them as we go along. But I've been trying to pray for 50 years. Some success and a whole lot of failure. But I've been trying to pray for 50 years. When was the last time you prayed? When was the last time you prayed? When was the last time you prayed? And I'm not going to discount the quick answer this morning because I believe that many of us are engaged in constant talking to God. But in the next hour and 20 minutes, I want to really stamp on us. When was the last time you prayed? Do you get the feeling, the difference? When was the last time you prayed? As to when was the last time you prayed? Because there are a whole lot of folk who talk, got the right words, but I'm not sure they have done a whole lot of praying. I had a grandfather who I was convinced had a relationship with God that I didn't have, and a whole lot of other folk. I was born in his house. I'm a midwife baby. My children always laughed. They said, Dad, what hospital were you born in? I said, I wasn't born in no hospital. What clinic? I wasn't born in a clinic. Doctor's office? No doctor's office. Well, what doctor delivered you? No doctor delivered me. My Aunt Marie delivered me in Pop Ernest's house on Route 354, a little place called Molas. Lived in that house, grew up in that house. But I would watch that man go in a room one way and come out altogether different. I would hear him because I would sneak and put my ear against the door because he prayed out loud and prayed loud. And he would be in there with somebody. I couldn't see who was in there, but he was in there with somebody. Y'all know what I'm talking about? And he would go in moving like this, like he was troubled, burdened. And he'd come out shoulder squared and go out in the strawberry patch of the field as if something had transformed. I learned his words. I memorized his words. So I started praying his words, but I didn't get what he got. Am I resonating with anybody in here? I had Pop Ernest's words, but I didn't know how to pray. I am 56 years old. I have been to some of the finest schools in this country, but nobody had a course on prayer. How many ministers I have here, seminary people? Have y'all taken the course on how to pray? They don't teach it yet? When did you finish seminary? 82. I finished in 77. They still ain't teaching. Huh? Anybody else finished after that? How many of you been to a General Assembly and they taught you how to pray? How many of you been to sessions and they taught you how to pray? How many of you been anywhere and they had a course on how to pray? Don't you find it interesting that in every worship service we have, the liturgy states in the order of worship, either invocation, prayer, altar prayer, prayers of confession, benediction. But nobody's taught you. In the disciple church, every Sunday, elders stand at the table and pray. But y'all haven't had a class in how to pray.
I teach one every church.
You teach one?
Maxie Dunham's workbook of living prayer.
Oh, is it working?
I think so.
Think so? Okay. You're the first. You're going to teach this class next time. But the truth of the matter is, it's just assumed that people will know how to pray. Not learn, just know how to pray. How are you going to know how to pray if somebody teach you how to pray? Or can prayer be taught? So I'm going to base most, if not all of what I talk about today on the 11th chapter of Luke. When the disciples, I don't know whether they inadvertently or accidentally bumped into Jesus, or whether they, with a CIA, FBI, espionage type thing, stole up on him. But they caught him in the act of praying, and something happened. When they watched him, and this is what the verse says. One day, Jesus was praying in a certain place. When he finished, one of his disciples said to him, "Lord, teach us to pray as John taught his disciples." And what has been resonating with me is, what did they see? What did they hear? What did they experience that led them to say? And it's amazing to me, if you read all of the Gospels, we have no record of the disciples making up any request of Jesus other than, "Lord, teach us to pray." "Lord, teach us to make money." No. "Lord, teach us to be a successful fisherman." Nope, you don't have that. "Lord, teach us to be great evangelists." No, we don't have that. "Lord, teach us to be great preachers." No. You read it. The Gospels are silent in the disciples requesting anything. Man, we don't have, but they asked him when they stumbled upon him praying, "Lord, teach us to pray." I want to submit to you that these were not novice. These were praying men. As a matter of fact, they were probably more steeped in the ritual of prayer than anybody in this room. The reason being, the Jewish manner in which they grew up and their tradition would have required of them constant prayer. Unlike us, who baptize, let folks start teaching class and all of that, we never teach them that stuff. But according to tradition of Judaism, from about age 12 up, if not earlier, Jewish boys are put on the knee of the father, of the person of wisdom, and they are taught the Pentateuch, the Torah, the canon. These men knew the prayers of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They knew about Moses and the burning bush. They knew about the crossing of the Red Sea, the water and all of that. They knew about the slavery in Egypt. These men were praying men. But when they stumbled upon Jesus, they said, we don't do it the way he does it. So obviously they saw something in Jesus' praying, heard something or experienced something that made them say to themselves, whew, this man's got something that we don't have. And they said, you know, sir, we've been hanging around you for a while. We got one request. The only thing we ask you, can you teach us to do that the way you do it? Is there anybody in here have seen someone do something well and you'd like for them to teach you how to do it? What?
Family, whatever they are, creative, building something.
You just like to replicate it. Can you teach me how to do that? Anyone else?
Acapella last night.
Oh, yeah, wouldn't that be nice? I can't sing with music. Anyone else? Anything if you see someone else and they do it well, you said, boy, can you teach me how to do that?
My father-in-law does the dishes faster than I have ever seen anybody do that in my life. He was in the Navy.
And you just like know how to do it.
I wish I could do it like he does.
Don't get in the water on the floor.
Nope. 5 minutes, it's just
Done.
I like the way my mom made salmon cakes and wanted her to teach me.
Have you learned yet? No. Okay. I might use that. Lord, teach us to do this prayer thing the way you do. Now, I want to submit that I have no idea when the request was made in their journey with Jesus. I don't know whether it was the first year, second, I don't know. But let me offer that this is not the first time they have seen or heard him pray. But each time they were in his presence with prayer, it blew their minds. So let me suggest something that we can work with. You remember, he takes James, John, and Peter up on the Mount of Transfiguration. A lot of folk miss this. It's that he was praying, right? What happened while he was praying? Moses, and when was the last time you prayed and folks showed up? That been dead for a long time. No, that's some powerful praying when the lawgiver and the prophet shows up and they knew who they were. Now, y'all Bible-believing people, right? What else happened up on that mountain?
The Spirit of God spoke.
When you pray, do you hear God speak? I'm working on y'all. I'm going to tell you, before you leave out here, we're going to have transfigured moments up here. I'm telling you.
I'm begging for that to happen because I can't hear it unless he does.
Yeah, and I think that we can get a start on learning to pray like that. But we got visitations. When Jesus prayed, stuff happened. Let me repeat that. When Jesus prayed, stuff happened. Let me say that a third time, because y'all not with me. When Jesus prayed, stuff happened. On the mountain, visitation, voice speaking. Something else happened. Transformed. Jesus looked like what? Glisten. Say it again. Spirit. The mountain turns holy. When he prayed, folk visited him from distant lands. When he prayed, his father broke silence and said, "This is my beloved son, hear ye him." My God. He glistens. He shines in their presence. So much so that Peter said, let me tell you something. Ain't no need us going back. Because the moment When he prays, stuff happens. Does stuff happen when you pray? You don't have to answer. We're going to work on this, you know. And y'all help me. You know, time flies when I'm having fun. We find Jesus at Jairus' house with a daughter who, by the statement of others, is dead. He's got these three with him again. The girl's dead. As a matter of fact, somebody told him on his way, ain't no need you going further, man. Go on back. She's dead. He says, Jairus, look, man, just believe. Gets to the house, what does he do? Said, y'all leave. Those of you who don't have the authority of prayer, don't believe in it, y'all leave. And what did he do? He prayed, and what happened? She awoke and did what? Got up and said, give us something to eat. When Jesus prayed, stuff happened. Isn't that something? So Jesus tried to teach these hard men, because you know these are guys who fished, took care of their families. We don't need no help. I see them on and knocking is still something going on and on and on. My goodness. When Jesus prays, stuff happens. When you pray, stuff happens. Let me bring this to a semi-end, because he says something else that made no sense at all until I reread this. I said, well, this might make sense in trying to do this workshop. In verse 11, he says, and again, one of them says Jesus is just hallucinating with this stuff. He says, which of you fathers, if your son asks for a fish, will give him a snake instead? I said, what is that got to do with teaching him to pray? That's what he says. Or if you ask for an egg, you'll give him a scorpion. You see that? And he said, if you then who are evil know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father give you the Holy Spirit to those who ask him? Where did that come from? The way you're looking at me is saying, huh? The text began with, Lord, teach us to pray, right? And he teaches them to be dependent on someone bigger than them. He teaches them to be persistent. He teaches them to ask, seek, and knock. Then he goes off the scale. Or does he land us on it? What is he getting at here with this ending? What parent, if a child asks him for something, you give him something bad or harmful? No way. But then he actually sets the prayer agenda. He says that if you ask the Father for the Spirit, he'll give it to you. What is he getting at? Why, at the end of this thing, you're going to teach me about prayer, you're going to drop on me, Jesus, in all you're praying, the key is ask for the Spirit. If you're ever going to learn to pray, make sure you ask for the Holy Spirit. What is he talking about? Am I missing something here? What is he talking about? So I ask for the Spirit. What do I have? You have a what? You have a teacher. So I ask for the Spirit. What do I have? I got the power of God, Spirit of God. If I ask for the Spirit, what do I have? Are you right, Fred? If I get the Spirit, I've got everything I need. You wouldn't pull my leg, would you? It's in the book. So, if I learn to pray and ask God, really God, there's only one thing I need. If I can get that, I'm covered. Is that real? Fred says that the Spirit, if I have it, I got everything I need. Y'all buy that? So unpack that for me. What do you have then? I got a teacher. I got power. What else do I have? I got forgiveness. I got a who? A provider. Of everything? Dick, you're not going to make it. It almost was too good to be true. If I learned to pray and learned what to pray for the Spirit, I got everything I need. Let me see if I can unwrap this. In the book of Genesis, there is a creation story that declares that God said, let us make man. Is that right? And the Bible says he fashioned man after his likeness, his own image, the imago Dei. But all we got is clay that looked like something. That's all we got, right? And then God, according to the Hebrew, Urach, breathed into clay the breath of life. And the clay became a living what? A living being. What did God breathe into this clay? The Spirit of God. God put God in us. Which means then I've got a resident God. Everywhere we go, we are prayer. Because God is with us. And we messed up. And God came back again to figure out what he did wrong. That messes me up. God comes back to see what God did wrong. Why else would he come back? When he made it, he said, that's good. So God comes back and said, where did I blow it with y'all? I said, Steve, what is it I didn't give you that you had to go mess with the tree? I've done this illustration with this thing because young folk like cars. I said, the creation story is like having the car of your choice for 7 consecutive days. Filled with gasoline and short, you got to do nothing but drive. So the kids, Lamborghini passed. I said, cool, you got a Lamborghini. You drive it on Monday. Anybody else? Escalade, drive it on Tuesday. Anything else? Rolls Royce. The kids know cars. And they give me all of these wonderful cars. And I said, and God said, that 66 Volkswagen Beetle, orange, that's mine. Don't drive that. You got 7 cars. And then God hears folk trying to jump start because they ain't got no keys. Y'all remember how you push the stick shift, just pop the clutch? That's what Adam and Eve were doing. Eve was pushing. All that crazy stuff. Anyway, in the Pentecost story, Jesus sends us a second wind of the Spirit that lights on and visits, resides. God resides in us. We have a resident God. And you can't go anywhere without prayer being part of your life, but everywhere you go, you take the resident God. Which means then, any theological question you have to ask. It never dawned on you? Say, hey, God, listen. I was reading this Moses story. I ain't got this bush thing straight. Will you talk to me about that? God, over here, this temptation thing in the wilderness in the Spirit, because you have with you the resident God. You can't go anywhere. Now, some of my members of the past, you mean God goes everywhere. Well, suppose I'm sinning. Suppose. The resident God goes everywhere. So much so that the prodigal son sitting in the pig pen, ready to eat pods that the pigs eat, said he came to himself. The reason why he came to himself because God was in himself. He said, why don't we go home? We ain't got no business down here. Resident God, as I send you away from him, I have a joy of my life, of this resident God business. I learned this in an actual piece. Howard Thurman, whom I read a great deal, this is Discipline of the Spirit, has been my mentor, my guide in my spiritual life for a long time. I first stumbled upon him when I was a student at Duke Divinity School, when Dr. Herbert Edwards would read a meditation every day in class from Thurman. I said, who is that you're reading? He said, Howard Thurman, you never heard of him? I said, never heard of him. I said, I'd like to get his books. This stuff is great. He said, I don't know whether you can get it around here. Well, he had in his book a little card that fell out. It was the Howard Thurman Educational Foundation, San Francisco, California. You could send this and you could purchase his books. I wrote Howard Thurman. I said, dear Dr. Thurman, my name is William Lee. I'm a student at Duke Divinity School. I have been moved greatly by the stuff that you write. It has helped me tremendously with my prayer life and all of that. I said, I'd like to purchase your library, but I have no money. But if I could work out a deal with you, I'd pay you so much per month until I pay it all. I come home one evening from school and there's a box on my front porch. Stamped across the front, Howard Thurman Trust Fund, San Francisco, California. And I don't go in the house, I'm sitting on the porch, sitting on the concrete, opening this box, and it has everything he has written. And he has a little card, dear young Reverend Lee. Now, how he knew I was young, I don't know, but Howard was 80, so I guess everybody was young to him. He said, I am moved that anything I've written moves anybody. And if what I've done has moved you, here's my entire library. And you may pay me a penny a month until it's paid in full. Best wishes, H.T. I said, man. Duke University invites him to be theologian in residence for 1 month. But you've got to get an appointment to be with him because everybody wants to see Howard Thurman. I've graduated by now. I called the dean, try to make my request, and he sends it on to Howard Thurman, and Howard Thurman responds, I remember you, young Reverend Lee. Now, whether he did or not, that's what he said. And gave me not the one appointment, said that if I would come and spend the week, in between the other people that he would see, we would spend quality time together. Well, he got sick before I could get to Durham, had to fly him back to California, and he died. I never got a chance to spend time with the theologian in residence. But there is a theologian in residence who is not dead, will not die. His name is Jesus. He says, ask anything in my name, and I'll give it to you. Brethren, I believe it with all my heart, that if you learn to pray,